Today, it's one for the history books, as Britain becomes the first country to vaccinate its citizens with a widely tested and independently reviewed COVID-19 vaccine. But here in the US, we're barreling toward a large-scale eviction crisis, on top of the health and unemployment crises we already face. And finally, Apple puts a sky-high price tag on its latest hardware offering. I'm MacKenzie Sigalos, and this is CNBC After Hours. A day for the record books across the board. Let's start with Wall Street. The Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ all climbing to new record highs. And that's at least partly fueled by today's other record, the fastest ever timeline for vaccine development, emergency approval, and rollout. While the FDA is scheduled to meet on Thursday to discuss authorization for Pfizer and BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine in the US, the United Kingdom is a few steps ahead. The UK began inoculating its population today, becoming the first country to start administering a tested and approved COVID-19 vaccine. Other countries like Russia and China have been giving vaccines to their residents, but those were not tested in large-scale clinical trials. CNBC Europe's Julianna Tatelbaum was on the ground in London, where today has been dubbed V-Day.
The UK's mass national vaccination program has officially begun. This morning, the first patient was given the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccination. That was Margaret Keenan, a 90-year-old grandmother. The second patient to receive the vaccine was an 81-year-old British man named none other than William Shakespeare. These two people were part of the first wave of people being offered the vaccination. Last week, the UK published their list of recommendations for who should receive the vaccine first. During these first weeks, it will be people who are over 80 years old, as well as frontline healthcare workers and long-term care home workers. Eventually, once the UK works out how to solve the logistical challenges involved in moving this vaccine around, which requires being kept at minus 70 degrees Celsius, the vaccine will be offered in other settings, like care homes, as well as primary care settings and vaccination centers, which are being built around the United Kingdom. Right now, though, the vaccine is being offered in hospitals like the one behind me, Guy's Hospital here in central London. The Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, spoke this morning, saying the vaccine would make a huge difference, but urged people to keep following the rules as we haven't defeated the virus yet. Now, one of the other major challenges here in the United Kingdom involves getting people to actually want to take the vaccine. Like in the US, people are nervous. Some people are skeptical about taking this vaccine, which has progressed at an unprecedented pace from development to approval. The Prime Minister and the UK regulator urging that no corners have been cut and say that people shouldn't be afraid to take the inoculation.
Okay, let's get to our sound check. Here's a roundup of the day's biggest action and what the top newsmakers and business leaders had to say on CNBC's airwaves.
Pfizer did offer an additional allotment coming out of that plant, basically the second quarter allotment to the United States government multiple times, and as recently as after the interim data came out and we knew this vaccine looked to be effective.
I'm able to speak not only on behalf of Massachusetts, but as president of the National Association of State Treasurers. If you do not support states and localities, you will not see a full recovery coming forward.
Consumers are not only shifting their spending online, but they're engaging in shopping in a completely different way. But the second thing that I think might be surprising to your audience is that many of those younger consumers, they're also looking for creative ways to make money, and they're starting businesses on their own.
We thought this was the most kind of creative and win-win situation to bring them out not only in theaters, but simultaneously for 31 days on HBO Max, so that people who don't have access to theaters in the US are able to see the movies, and we're able to market them.
Pope Francis doesn't point an accusatory finger at wealth creation and capitalism, but what he wants is for the creation of wealth to aid and not destroy the planet and the people on it.
Wall Street is watching Washington, D.C. closely this week, and not just because of Thursday's FDA vaccine meeting. Capitol Hill once again takes center stage as lawmakers try to agree on a COVID-19 relief bill, or what investors call fiscal stimulus. Just this afternoon, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said he is willing to support a basic package that would not include provisions like legal protections for businesses and financial aid for state and local governments, two big sticking points between Democrats and Republicans. So the negotiations, well, they continue. But time is ticking. The economic recovery is slowing and could be in serious trouble. Friday's job report was bleak, and certain unemployment protections expire at the end of the month, along with the CDC's temporary ban on evictions. Now, we've seen headline after headline this year celebrating the strength of the housing market as city dwellers fled to the suburbs. Sales are strong and prices are high. In October, the median sale price of an existing home hit a record. Now, that's good news for homeowners, but does nothing to help people who rent. And as January 1st gets closer, this country is on the brink of an eviction crisis. CNBC's Diana Olick has those details.
Renters have been disproportionately hard hit by the pandemic. They tend to be in lower paying service jobs, and so they have a much higher unemployment rate. They were getting a lot of help with the first round of government stimulus and payments. They were able to pay their rent, but that mostly expired over the summer. Then they got protections under the Centers for Disease Control in September, which said that an eviction would be very dangerous to their health, obviously, during a pandemic. But that expires January 1st, and right now they have nothing backing them up. No extra payments and no eviction moratorium. You know, we've been talking to the CDC and they say there is a potential that it could be extended, but they haven't made that decision yet. It's possible that they're waiting to see what happens in Congress. Obviously, there's been a lot of debate over a second stimulus that might have payments for unemployed workers. It might have renter help. It might have another eviction moratorium, but so far that's stalled in Congress. So as of now, there is nothing left to help renters except some state programs, but it's not national, not widespread. And that CDC eviction moratorium does expire at the end of this month. The CDC moratorium only covers non-payment of rent, so a renter could be evicted for another reason, like, say, some small property damage or even a pet that the landlord may have known about beforehand. But now, because that renter's not paying, the landlord could try to evict. We spoke to one renter, Christina Kelly, and unfortunately for her, her lease was actually up. She hasn't been able to pay since August because she lost her job, and because her lease is up, she doesn't fall under that CDC eviction moratorium.
I have nothing right now. There are no options. Right now, the homeless shelters are all closed to new people because the pandemic, obviously. And I don't have a vehicle for me to even sleep in.
For the larger landlords, it's really not as much of a problem because they have enough to be able to help the renters who are in trouble. They also tend to be landlords for larger buildings where the rent is higher and where perhaps the renters have higher income and haven't been influenced so much by unemployment. It's really the mom and pop landlords that are in trouble here, and they make up 8 million of the landlords in this country. They often depend on that rent for their own income, and so they need to be able to get some kind of help. So when we say it's awful for the renters to get evicted, absolutely, but these landlords also need to pay their own mortgage payments, they need to pay upkeep on these homes, and it's possible they could lose the homes if they don't get the rent.
Okay, time for today's numbers round. Let's kick it off with 549. Apple announced a new over-the-ear version of its wildly popular AirPods called AirPods Max. Over-ear headphones are often more comfortable to wear for long periods of time compared to the in-ear buds. The company says the AirPods Max offer the same features as the earbuds, including noise cancellation, voice commands, and quick pairing with the iPhone. Here's the catch. They cost $549. Similar offerings from Sony, Bose, and even Beats, which is owned by Apple, carry price tags in the $350 range. Next, 5. Radio host Howard Stern extended his long-running relationship with SiriusXM, signing a 5-year deal after speculation that he might jump to a different company. Financial terms of the deal weren't disclosed, but it's rumored to be worth around $100 million. The massive payday comes as radio talent is as valuable as ever. This year, audio titan Spotify signed the likes of Michelle Obama and Kim Kardashian West to podcast deals. And just last week, we learned of reports that Amazon is in talks to buy podcast maker Wondery for around $300 million, 3 times what it was in June of 2019. And finally, $5 billion. Tesla is looking to cash in on its red-hot stock price. This morning, the electric car maker shared plans to raise up to $5 billion through a new stock offering, which just means that the company is making more of its shares available for investors to buy. And this is Tesla's second offering in just 3 months. The stock has enjoyed a truly meteoric rally this year, soaring about 670% since New Year's Day. Learn more about Tesla's stock offering and its plan to build more factories in Texas and Germany by going to CNBC.com and downloading the CNBC app. That's it for After Hours. We'll be back here in our home office every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, so be sure to catch us then.